This episode of the Aggie Pride podcast is brought to you by Buckhorn Meat Company, where quality and tradition come together. Whether you're firing up the grill for a tailgate, stock in the freezer, or celebrating a big Aggie win, Buckhorn Meat Co. has you covered. Locally owned, proudly serving the Sacramento Valley. They specialize in premium cuts, custom processing, and wild game butchering done right. So before your next barbecue or hunt, swing by Buckhorn Meat Company in Esparto or visit buckhornmeatco.com to order online. Buckhorn Meat Company, fuel your pride, feed your crew. What's up, Dwight? How you doing?
Hey, Brock, I'm doing great. Even better now. Good to be back on the airwaves with you. Time is flying, man. It's the last week of October. We are headed into crunch games, crunch months for the football season.
Crunchy candy on Halloween Friday night. What's the Smith fam doing? Are you guys puttering around your neighborhood, or are you having a rager at your house?
I'll go with option C, which is Samara's school is having an event for kids and their families on Friday. And nice. So I will be Elsa's escort to pick up some more candy to add to the stash. Candy rationing in the Smith household is already in full effect. Nice. And there will be snacks, Brock, which is another important part of this season. And it's an important part of life. And it's an important part of the Aggie Pride podcast, because Aggie Pride is brought to you by Rivals, the new way to snack like a champion. Packed with 8 grams of plant protein, Rivals stuffed snacks give you all the flavor and crunch you crave without the junk. Whether you're hitting the gym, tailgating before kickoff, or grinding through a long workday, Rivals keeps you fueled and focused. Grab a bag at rivalssnacks.com and taste the difference. Rivals, big flavor, better fuel, built for game day. And my daughter is a fan. Those Rivals snacks it's like a new kind of snack experience, and I really like them. Encourage folks to check them out.
Who's their marketing gal is going to hook it up with some samples for us. Like, they're out of stock right now because so many people are eating the things. But my wife was particularly excited, like legitimately, not like fake ad excited. Like we're getting samples of those. Those were hella good last year. And so, yeah, you're not supposed to tell people when you're fasting, per the Bible. But I will break religious customs and say I'm fasting, and therefore these Rival snacks right now sound even better to me, although clearly I'm not on Ozempic and I don't need to eat them. So we're off to a raging start here on this week's edition. We are playing the Idaho State Bengals. And in case you're wondering, the sponsors are loving the pod, and Jason Moon and his Moon Real Estate Group is back on board as well. So we know the Larisons are legit. Lan is sending Scott Johnson's kid a signed 34 Patriots jersey. I don't know if I can say that, but I did. And the family's great. And if you need to buy a house in the Pacific Northwest or Idaho, you know that Bob and Jan got you covered. But if you want to buy a house in Aggie land, aka Sacramento, or even down here in the Bay, Jason Moon's your guy. He's back on board. _Jason Moon on Instagram is probably the best way to get in touch with him. But mortgage rates are falling again. They're kind of creeping down to 6. I'm hoping they get below that. Would like a little refi in my life and have some money for once in blue moon. Jason Moon. All right. Dwight, let's friggin' talk some ball. We have an awesome episode. I will say that. Jayden Stanley was the unanimous choice when we put out an Instagram, which, what are you doing? Follow us on Instagram, because that's where you get to see who's coming up on this week's interview. And we asked the public, who should we have? And it was pretty clear, like, Jayden Stanley is your guy, which is interesting because it's not a big name star from previous years. I mean, he's essentially the second leading tackler on our defense this year, but he was not someone like Len Larson, for instance, or Jake Mayer in years past where people knew the name. But he's an awesome guy, and he has been the team captain on every team he's been on since 7th grade, and that is one of many factoids I found out during the time. So that will succeed our time, and so stick around for that. But Dwight, let's talk about the Bengals, and let's talk about who's involved in this Idaho State program. We want to start with the question simply, what are you excited about in this weekend's Football Alumni Day matchup?
The Aggie Football Fund provides essential gap funding for the UC Davis football program, empowering the team to access vital resources for player development and program success. It also reconnects and engages former football alumni to maintain the legacy of Aggie pride and perpetuity. Through direct and flexible support, the AFF bridges funding gaps while fostering a thriving alumni community. Visit AggieFootballFund.com for more information.
Bank like a champion when you bank with University Credit Union. UCU is the official credit union of UC Davis and is committed to giving every UC Davis student, faculty, staff, and alum a financial advantage. From low loan rates and financial coaching to high savings rates, including our new Elite Certificate Special, University Credit Union helps you reach your financial goals. Visit ucu.org for details. Use promo code AggiePridePodcast to get started. University Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
This episode is sponsored by the Larson Real Estate Team, Bob and Jan Larson. You already know the name. They've been incredible supporters of UC Davis football, this podcast, and of course, they're Lance's parents, now cheering him on as he suits up for the New England Patriots. Off the field, Bob and Jan are one of the top real estate teams in the region, helping folks buy and sell across Idaho and Eastern Oregon. Whether it's a home, land, or investment property, they bring experience, hustle, and heart to every deal. So if you're looking to make a move or just want honest guidance, check out LarsonTeam.com or follow them on Instagram at Larson Real Estate. Huge thanks to Bob and Jan for backing Aggie Pride.
Yeah, like if you haven't been tracking with Idaho State, you should, because number one, they're an exciting, talented team. So that is going to be a great contest to be present for. Part of the reason that that program is on the rise is coaching. And Cody Hawkins is the head coach over in Pocatello. And you know, there's a lot of connections between Coach Plow, coaching staff at UC Davis, Coach Hawkins, and his father, who, if you listen to the interview with Coach Plow, we did about a week ago. If you haven't, go back and listen to that. It's an incredible interview. But, you know, pretty much every time we talk to Plow, he's paying homage to the legacy that Coach Hawkins Sr., and Coach Hawkins Jr. left and helped to build at UC Davis. And so this is a really special game because it's the first time for the Bengals, led by Cody Hawkins, coming back to Davis. So that's really exciting. You know, there's the battle on the field, and then there's the battle looking across the sidelines at the dudes wearing the headsets. And so I was just watching a bit of Coach Cody Hawkins his press conference about the game coming up. And he spends a lot of time talking about the relationships with players at Davis and obviously with the coaching staff. Ultimately, he says that, you know, it's not me playing Coach Coombs or me playing Coach Brady or Coach Plow. It's the players playing each other. So I think that's ultimately going to bear itself out, but it is exciting for us as fans, as folks that are following the Agsension, which is a Hawkism of UC Davis, to see a guy who was part of kind of really taking us into this period of our Division I kind of ascension, come back, coaching on the other sideline, obviously. So that's going to be really exciting for me. I know a lot of people. And as Coach Plow said, it's one of those things where you want the opposing team to be in the W column every game except for this one, right? So there's a lot of relationships that are maintained, a lot of friendships there, but at the end of the day, excited to see the Aggies prevail on Saturday. What's got you excited, Brock?
Yeah, I mean that is the thing. That's the story is Dan and Cody coming back to Davis. When you look at Coach Hawk's time at Davis, like 5-6 his first year, which was a whole hell of a lot better than the Gould era. Then the best season in FCS history, probably still because we won the Big Sky, if we're honest. Recency bias would maybe say it's last year, and maybe we were a better team potentially, but we didn't win the Big Sky. Whereas in 2018, we did win a share of the Big Sky with 2 other teams. So, and then at the end, like it felt like it was petering out a little bit potentially. And, Cody had taken over as OC. Coach Plow had moved on. I don't think the offense was quite the same Shredville, right? And so when Plow came back last year, it really did feel like we just like picked right up where Shredville left off when Plow went to Cal and then Boise, or Boise and then Cal, I think. And so I'm interested. Like you're gonna say all the coach isms, but there's no doubt, dude. Like these guys are preparing with a little bit of extra verve, and I honestly think it's like nothing to lose for Idaho State. Like who you're 2-6. You're really 1-6. You beat Lincoln University of Oakland, which I have no idea in little town of Oakland where that university is. I have no idea where they play. They might be playing at Hayward High School, where my high school football career ended, with the patchiest, worst grass I've ever seen on this here earth. They beat them 90-0, Dwight. They scored 9-0 points against Idaho State. And if you look at the rest of Idaho State's, year, they started really hot when they played Dan Mullen and his return to college football against UNLV, as I take a look at the schedule now. But then, and even the next week, I think if my memory serves it well, like, okay, they played Southern Utah, lost by 20, but then they played New Mexico, which is where the Idaho coach from last year is, Jason Eck. Who's got them humming. They beat UCLA, I think, the week after and destroyed them in the Rose Bowl. And that's when everyone's like, UCLA is the worst team ever. Then they play Lincoln, just doesn't count. Shouldn't even count. That's not a real game. Northern Colorado and a win against Northern Colorado, though, by almost the same score as us.
Yep.
A close loss against Montana at home. Then they get destroyed by Montana State. Then they lose by a couple touchdowns last week in their homecoming against Northern Arizona. So I totally bypassed the one I'm excited for. There's an alumni tailgate. Russ Galvin and Easton Galvin will be there. We'll get a T-shirt. It'll go in the T-shirts. We might paint in it. We'll see the quality of it. And we'll eat some food and we'll get on the field to hopefully watch warm-ups. But I don't know. When you think of their schedule, Dwight, and when you kind of look at their body of work, like, what stands out to you? I mean, you said like, hey, there's a lot to be excited about this Idaho State team. They score a shit ton of points. Even taking out the Lincoln game, like this team can score. I mean, Montana State's defense, as we saw before the call when we're reviewing kind of conference stats, they're elite. They're the best defense so far in the conference. Other than not scoring against Montana State, this team has been decent on offense, I guess last week too against Northern Arizona, but what stands out to you?
Yeah, you talk about games they get up for. I can only imagine what that New Mexico game was like. Obviously, like basically Eck took a bunch of guys from Idaho and a bunch of other guys across FCS to New Mexico and that's their cross-state rival, right? And so I'd imagine they really got up for that one. It is an interesting schedule to look at, right? And you talk about Montana State. They lost that game 14-48. Was really never a contest. But then if you watch the Montana State Cal Poly game, that game was really interesting. I mean, it was Cal Poly was within striking distance. I think they were down by 10, early fourth or late third, and then Montana kind of shut the door. So obviously that just speaks to the rising parity in the Big Sky, and like those teams that are knocking on the door. Cal Poly's on the rise, but looking at this schedule, it reminds me a little bit of the conversation we were having about Northern Colorado. Different situation, but the similarity for me is that this team, and Coach Hawkins talks about it in his press conference after the loss to Northern Arizona, and a bit in the pre-press conference looking at the Davis game. Like they have a lot of talent. They're struggling to execute in the details of the game that make all the difference. And so to me, that's a dangerous team. Because like you said, they can put up points. You'll talk about it a bit. They've got guys offensively that can do some damage, and it sounds like they just need to find out how to click in the discipline and the fundamentals in key situations throughout the game, not to make mistakes, not to have execution errors that lead to big flips in momentum. And so to me, that's the challenge for us, obviously, to be the opposite, which I think we have been. Obviously, there have been areas for growth, but I think our team is one that is progressively improving and being more efficient. Case in point, you have to bring in your backup quarterback last week, and you still have an incredible half of football that is enough to win the game. But the flip side of that, Brock, and as I look at the schedule, it's like I'm the refrain of you can't look past anybody. 2-6, I don't care. Like you said already, they probably have hey, we want to go back to our coach's old stomping grounds and leave our mark there. And then on top of that, they just lost their homecoming game to Northern Colorado team, or a Northern Arizona team, and lost that game in large part because of lapses of focus and discipline and efficiency. Not necessarily because of a huge talent gap. So you can see that being a coaching point that I'm sure Coach Hawkins has used this week to be like, we got to step up. We're playing the 6th ranked team. If we lock these discipline factors in, guys, we can hang in there with them. So they're going to come in real motivated. I think we really have to watch out for that. So that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Okay. Here's what I'm wondering. I'll kind of talk about it a little bit and then get your thoughts. So mental strength, endurance. Those are a couple of things that come to mind right now. Week after week, we've heard are able to overcome. We're resilient. We're strong. Sometimes when you keep having bad stuff happen as humans, I had coffee with a guy this morning, and he was telling me like a bunch of stuff happened at work, bam, 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 bam. And it just felt like, man, this is just bad news after bad news. And it starts weighing on you and you feel a burden. And then you kind of lose belief, or you lose mental strength, or you lose endurance. And then you're less likely to perform well. Or if some little minor thing goes wrong, you start not to believe that you're going to win the deal, or you're going to make the play in the game. And so as seasons go on, the body hurts more and the mind has to really work. I mean, getting ready for practice late in my career was such a thing. Like the hot pack things on every part of my body is like my hip flexors, my hamstrings. I mean, taking a certain amount of pain medication before every single practice. And that obviously can be a dangerous thing. Like, praise God, I only took ibuprofen, but I know like certain dudes, like you're just trying to get through the practice and like not taking an ice bath afterwards. Like, I remember if I didn't take an ice bath after every practice, how bad the next practice would hurt. So that all weighs on you. And even in high school, like going both ways, playing every snap, being on every special teams. I remember at the end of my junior year, I mean, I was so football obsessed. For me, like the wins and losses were more important than anything. And I remember at the end of that season feeling so fatigued mentally. I mean, I went to bed every night dreaming about football, dude. I kind of thought, I had thoughts of like, man, if we didn't make the playoffs, like maybe I would, my body was just hurting so much. And so the two things with these teams, we have had a lot of injuries. They have had a lot of losses. And each one of those injuries and losses really test your mental strength and your endurance. So which one do you think wins out? Because you can lose a shit ton of games and have no pressure and just end up having that upset victory. If you look at Idaho State, this is a team I don't think is potentially improved that much. They were 3-8 in Cody's first year. They upset ranked Eastern Washington that year. They only beat us by 7 in Dan's last year as the head coach. Remember the father-son coach game? And then last year they beat Sac State. Now Sac State wasn't as good last year. And then they had one other decent like ranked win, I think. I know they beat Southern Utah last year by multiple scores, who we barely beat and who ended up having a decent year, but they were 5-7. And then this year they've regressed. They're 2-6 potentially, gonna have a worse record. So I'm kind of like, is this just going to be another upset bid and a team that loses most of its games that is in a bad area of the country that just can't get dudes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus our injury thing. So take that where you want.
Yeah, that's a good one, Brock. One thing it made me reflect to when we played, man, and like, you know, for a couple of those seasons, maybe more than a couple, there became a point where it was clear that you're not playing for the playoffs, right? Like, and so that's about coaches like managing the team and you know what the motivation is. And so there's a pressure off, but it also can be tough. Like, because I know the expectation for Cody Hawkins coming to Pocatello was to level this program up and to be competing, getting into the playoffs. And that they have a timetable for that. Even in the press conference, he talks about, you know, and this gets me back to the schedule on the losses, like they're purposely building tough schedules. I mean, look at like they have Montana State,
Lincoln, right?
Yeah, well, in the Big Sky, they have Montana State, Montana,
FBS.
And Davis.
Yeah, and 2 FBS games.
2 FBS, right. And then Montana State, Davis. And I think, like, you know, I would err towards injuries as being potentially more of a hurdle to navigate, just how depth plays in FCS and the Big Sky specifically, and who's getting injured. So I think that goes to all the credit to what the program has accomplished so far here at Davis, and you know the guys like Jayden Stanley and others who have really stepped up into roles, and it goes credit to the depth that Coach Plow and Brady and Coombs and all these guys who've been recruiting have been building at Davis, that we're still able to win games, even if it's not with the usual suspects. But I do just want to say about Idaho State, probably the biggest indication game of what they're capable of is a loss. And it's that loss to Montana. Like, they were right there with the number 4 ranked team in the country going into the fourth quarter, and Montana shuts them out in the fourth quarter, scores 14. They were up on Montana headed into the fourth. Now that game was at home. We know it's tough to play on the road, but I just think that this team is, I don't know about their regression, Brock. I don't know if I would put it at regression. We'll see how the season plays out. I think they're scheduling tough. And, you know, Cody Hawkins is trying to build something, and that is difficult. And so I don't even know how injuries have impacted their season, if at all. But I know that just a couple weeks ago they took Montana to the wire. So that's all I really need to know, because that's who we're gunning for as well. And, we're looking to be added to that tier of the Montanas and the Dakotas. And that's what it takes. And obviously they haven't had what it takes to get over the hump and win those games. But my motivation is we're not going to be the team that serves them getting over that hump. You know what I mean?
For sure. And I think we'll take a quick peek at where each of us stand in the conference. At this point, and it was interesting for us to do this before we clicked play. Um, you know, we've played 4 conference games each, and we don't really start looking back on the year from a sample size standpoint until right about now. Technically, we have 8 games under our belt, um, and they do as well. And technically, 4 of them are conference, or truly 4 of them are conference. And you start to see some things. Like, you start to see 2 teams rising above the pack, and that's UC Davis and Montana State. And that's how it was last year at Coach Ploff's first year. And it ended up being a 2-point win for Montana State. A game I feel like they controlled more than the score indicated. But the reality is, like, a game's 48 minutes, and we came back and we had a chance to tie it to go to overtime with a 2-point conversion. But I mean, our defense stops the run. Our defense has created a lot of turnovers, mostly fumbles, as we kind of joked around about. Our pass defense has not been as strong. We've had a lot of injuries in the secondary, though. So as guys get more comfortable in that, that'll be interesting. Our rush offense has been solid. Our pass offense has been very good. And, I think in looking at Idaho State, their passing game is elite. They throw for a ton of yards. I talked about this with Jayden Stanley. They had like 4 receivers over 30 receptions. It's just super unique. They've played 2 different quarterbacks because Jordan Cook was hurt for a few weeks. He's a DVC kid, Santa Rosa, born and raised, and has been Cody Hawkins' guy there the last couple years. And I remember watching last year against Montana, being really impressed with him. So he could bring something to the table on Saturday that it could be difficult. Like, if pass defense is maybe an area that we're a little leaky, that's what they do. They are more of like a run and shoot style than the Land Larison Cody Hawkins offense that was like 4 yards in a cloud of dust at the end of that season. So, yeah, I mean, I guess another thing that I wanted to ask you about before we get to the score predictions is the idea that we have 2 games back to back against the Idaho schools. The Vandals, which we're on the road next year too, which is the other thing I want to get your thoughts on, are not that good this year. Lo and behold, they've struggled as well. And so we have that lurking matchup in Bozeman that we're both looking at. And yet there's 2 teams in the way that could be something that the guys could look past. And then I do want to look past this year for a second and look at next year's conference schedule, which was released yesterday. And the conference is moving to a 9-game schedule as opposed to an 8-game schedule, which is different this year. We'll go back to Idaho. We host Montana and what we think might be the orientation game with a way too big crowd. And speaking of crowds, we apparently are locking the grass seating and not selling that this week or next home game. And we think it might be a ploy for the Sac State Hornets and their crowd control issues. So 3 things: overlooking people, next year's schedule, and then what the hell with our kids not rolling on grass.
Yeah, let me make it 3.5, because I don't know if you've been watching some basketball lately, but I think you said 48 minutes. I think we need to play 60 minutes of ball on
hilarious.
Saturday.
I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beer too. Like, fully sober. This is sponsored by Athletic.
Yeah, maybe you were watching the Warriors last night handle business
1-1,
against
baby.
the other team in LA. But yeah, so working backwards. So I think that ticket thing I think it is strategic. Looking ahead to next week, interesting that they put it in already. I think if folks are listening and you want to get on the berm, I think you just need to call the ticket office and you can still get GA ticket, general admission tickets that way from what I saw most recently. But they just are not selling them online. So yeah, I think man, I'm just not worried about, I don't know. Maybe I should be. I'm just not worried about us, like the whole trap game thing. I think like the stakes are raised every single week. That plus kind of plow and the coaching staff's mentality of nameless, faceless opponent. Like if the guys really lock into that, I think we'll be fine. We just got to handle business and go 1-0 every Saturday here. And that's just what it takes in the FCS and in the Big Sky now. So that's the bar. I think, we still haven't played our best football. And that being like 4 quarters, 3 phases, solid football. Last week we got 2 quarters of, maybe 2.5 if you include the 7-minute drive to end the game, and that's great. And we got to build on that. So I'm not too concerned about that, but it is a thing, playing, going on the road, because that'll be going on the road to Moscow, and then coming back and then going back out to Bozeman. So that's a factor, in the travel dynamic. And then the first thing you were talking about, remind me, because my brain got focused on the 15-minute quarters and forgot your first question.
Oh, the next year's conference schedule.
Oh, yeah. That, I like 9 games. Was looking at kind of when the bye lands. I think it's after our first 3 games, I believe, of the year. So 4th week, which is good. We open up with Portland State, I believe. I don't have it pulled up.
Which that's different, and it's a conference game.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that is interesting. Then we go 3 non-conference, and then conference opener after that would be Montana at home. Yeah. Yeah. So,
well,
yeah, and
technically
then we
that's
have
the second conference game. So Portland State is a conference.
technically,
Yeah. Conference
yeah.
home
So our
moment.
opening,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, so we play Portland up there next year.
Yeah. So, okay, I misheard you.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So the other interesting thing, obviously, as people know, the if you don't know, now you know, no Sac State on the schedule. Our big rival game is the last conference game, November 21st, I believe, against Cal Poly at home. So that is an opportunity for the battle for the Golden Horseshoe to take on even more significance, especially if Cal Poly continues to ascend as it seems they are this year. So it's interesting, man. The 9-game slate. So who do we have for non-conference? We got Stetson. We've
So
got SM. Do we have
after
SMU next year?
Yeah, you're right. So from beginning of the year, conference game at Portland State, but then we go down to San Diego Labor Day weekend. The following year we'll go down to UCLA Labor Day weekend. But this next year we'll go to Dallas and play SMU on the 12th, which I'm for sure going to that. Even if we're not doing the podcast next year, like I'm doing that, which we think we'll do it. And then Stetson, not Stetson Bennett, just Stetson University, is coming out. And so interesting. And then yeah, we host Montana, we host Eastern Washington, Northern Colorado, Utah Tech. Montana is a great matchup. That'll be great. The other ones, not that excited. Eastern Washington's kind of been sucking lately. They're a little better this year. And then any
3-1
fun
in
away game
conference.
trips. Okay, yeah, you're right. And then the away games next year, like Southern Utah again, back to back years, Idaho again, back to back years. Weber State is a sneaky, beautiful place to play. I have great memories playing there. Hardest hit of my life. But it's an interesting schedule. I mean, the SMU game I'm excited about, although we'll probably get destroyed because they're very, very good. Just went to the college football playoff. But we'll talk more about next year's schedule next year. I think it is just nice to kind of take a glance at it. You mentioned the
Yeah.
Sac State thing. That's the story. No Hornets. We knew there wouldn't be. Pete Povey and I had this idea. I texted you. They literally do these live screen printing events, and we're thinking of renting Bob Biggs, like a space on Bob Biggs Field before the Causeway, have their like pop up with their marketing team and their screen printing there, and him designing like the last Causeway T-shirt. I know we'd for sure sell out. I mean, obviously the hat that I'm rocking right now already sold out. The grays
Sold
already
out.
sold out. The classic blues we ordered more of, so we have a few more of those. If anyone still wants a podcast hat, you can buy one. They'll be sold out by Saturday, so you should snag them if you're thinking about it. But what do you think of that Causeway shirt idea? Like put Brennan Marion's cowboy hat on there with maybe like a Hawkins just like giving him an elbow. I don't know.
Well, that last idea, I think the bigger idea is awesome. The last Causeway, we don't know when the next one will be. So, not only a chance to memorialize this, I think what will be the 71st Causeway Classic, potentially the last, and a significant game in the big
Huge
picture
game.
of, looking at playoffs, huge game, right? And so that sounds like a great idea to kind of, have that live, have those shirts created live there on the scene. That sounds exciting.
Yeah. Well, let's finish it out with our Buckhorn Miko score predictions. Um, Before we do, a quick would you rather, Dwight. There were two prominent brackets released this week. One by the guy of FCS football, and that's Sam Herder. Sam has UC Davis as the number 6 seed in his 1.0 bracketology, playing the winner of the Mercer Bears versus the Illinois State Redbirds. So either a rematch with Mercer or a rematch of last year's second round. Or would you rather Stan Becton's NCAA bracket predictions that has UC Davis, the 11 seed, playing Drake, and then going to Monmouth as the 6 seed? What route do you like better? Drake, who sucks ass, and Monmouth, or Mercer, who changed quarterbacks and has been very good, and Illinois State, who I think is better than last year too?
Yeah, this is interesting, man. How sweet would a rematch with Mercer be? That just like, that's exciting, and potentially that would be at our place, right? So that would
Yeah.
be great. We could call it a neutral site game because their neutral site was basically a home game. But that path leads, I believe, through South Dakota State. If I
Yeah,
remember
we don't want
correctly,
to
I
go
don't
up
have them
there.
pulled up.
Outdoor stadium.
Right. So
Dwayne and
that's
Brock do not want to do that.
yeah, that's interesting. We've had the experience in the South Dakota Dome in Vermilion. So like the beginning of that is exciting. Obviously, first round bye, helpful in a lot of ways. Get the guys go home and also rest up. So that's interesting. The other route is interesting too, because I think that one would go through Tarleton, which is just like that program is fascinating. Would be a cool kind of challenge there. The front end of that bracket has us, potentially playing some interesting teams that we haven't been able to see historically in Monmouth. I believe you said Monmouth and we'd play the
Yeah.
winner of Monmouth Drake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, we would play
I don't
Drake
know. I
through.
mean,
Yeah. He actually has us as the 11 seed, and we would be playing Drake, who is the Pioneer League team that we should smash. And then we go on the road to Monmouth, who I still would like us
Right.
against, although they chuck the ball around. Then it's Tarleton, just southwest of Fort Worth. So, beautiful, sparkling stadium. And then Montana, if you make it to the semis in Missoula. All this is going to change, but it is kind of fun to look at. Like, you
Right.
could be the 6th seed and have a tougher route versus you could be the
Right.
11th seed and land one of these auto bids that suck, suck in air quotes, and have an easier route potentially, although you have to play the extra game. So
Right.
interesting to look at.
So that's, to me, it's like, how valuable is the bye to us? Like, based on where we are headed into the playoffs, right? And so there's a lot more travel in one in one route and one bracket, but then you may have to travel eventually to play outdoor against up in Brookings, right? So, and in the other bracket, you're going to end up outdoors playing in Bozeman, or sorry, in Missoula. So, yeah, it's kind of pick your poison, but it is interesting to look at. Hard for me to pick one. I kind of lean towards the first round bye route at this point. It'll be interesting to see how things play out and where we land.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. Last week, Coach Plow told us, he said, "Hey, we're not even taking the allotted amount of guys on the plane. Like, we got extra seats." Well, Dwight and I are just raising our hand. If we need to go to Brookings and we're trying to figure out how many gajillions of dollars and how many connection flights we're going to have to make it. A couple people recently have been like, "Yo, the school should fly you with these guys." And I will not say that for the regular season, but if you got extra seats and you're going somewhere crazy and your boys are having to pay like $1,000 for some crazy flights and it takes 3 days to get there, you know, we're just saying words out loud. Dwight, the Buckhorn Meadco
Yeah,
score
and
predictions.
right. And I would just say that, folks, ask Brock when you see him next about the story of how he almost did not get back home from
Oh,
the South
oh my
Dakota
gosh.
playoff
That's
game
right.
last year.
That's right. We didn't
And
even talk about
we'd
that.
like to avoid we'd like to avoid that in the future. So
Oh my
anyway.
gosh, that's right.
Buckhorn Miko score predictions. I did something for fun, Brock, and we live in an AI world now. So I went ahead and asked our friend Chad GPT to pump out a score prediction for the 2025 matchup between UC Davis and Idaho State. Do you have a guess on what Chad or Chat GPT said?
I mean, if they're going by this year's information, they should have it high scoring based on their offense and our offense. But I don't know if chat is in tune with that. But that would be my thought is it's like UC Davis 48, Idaho State 34, 31. That feels like what they should say, or 28.
Yeah, that's not too far off. Chad gave me a whole readout. I won't hit you with the whole thing. They had a couple prediction models. One model favored Davis 37-22, which is interesting actual numbers. So Chad, I'm curious how we get to a score of 37 and a score of 22. And then the other model was 44-33. So an 11-point spread. But Chad's predicted score is, Chat says, I expect UC Davis to win by a solid margin. UC
Yeah.
Davis 38, Idaho State 20. And that's I think kind of in line with the average, points per game and kind of how our defense has been playing. So I actually don't think that's too far off from where I was thinking. I think last week, one thing we heard from Coach Plow's post-game press conference is the fact that Grant was dealing with cramps the second half, which really kind of threw a wrench in what was a brilliant first half. Like, he was on track. The team was on track to really put up a lot of points. So that type of situation aside, whether we have Caden at the helm, which we don't know, hopefully the illness, the tonsillitis is been addressed. But I think like we just have to be prepared to see number 10 or see number 12 out there. And so I think either way, our offense has shown the ability, and Idaho State has shown the ability to allow points to be scored. And so I would put us right back where I had us last week at, 5 or 6 scores in the game. So I would put us, right there at the 38, agreeing with my boy Chat GPT. And then I actually think our defense, though it's battered and bruised, I just think Coach Coombs has the gorilla glue to hold this thing together, and our defense has actually been playing better all like every week since we lost, Rex and Porter and some of the other guys. And so I actually see us coming in under 20 points allowed. So I'm going to say more of a 38-13 score. UC Davis pulls out the victory.
38-13. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of confidence in our defense. Jordan Cook is back, and they have so much explosiveness at the receiver position. I think this is a game that Cody Hawkins and Dan Hawkins are going to be scheming up special things. Like, I wouldn't be surprised with like trick plays and that sort of thing. Um, and if the Hawkins were not involved in the program and you just placed a different head coach there, like, I think I'm right on that score prediction. But I think there's a little too much pride from those guys to like come in here and get boat raced. I really do think it's going to be some explosive plays on both sides of the ball, and I'm excited about that. Like, I'm excited to see an entertaining game. Um, and so I'm gonna go more so like a 37-24, maybe even like a 37-27 is what I'll say is the final score. And it's not even anything negative about us. I'm just like putting a lot of credence to the personal conviction of those guys to put together the best plan they have all year and to come into Dan's alma mater and the last place that Cody coached and really like made a name for himself as a coach to parlay that into a head coaching job at the Big Sky level. So I think it's a win. I think it's still comfortable, but I think they do make some plays. Maybe we're up 37-20 and they score a garbage time touchdown like we've seen in a couple other games. I hope I'm wrong. Our defense is dope. Jayden Stanley's going to talk to us all about it here in a moment. But that's going to be my score prediction. But if it is football alumni day, it's $15 for a t-shirt, and the pregame tailgate starts at 10 a.m. at the Champions Aggie tailgate area outside the Health Sciences building. So hopefully we see some folks out there. Dwight, any final words before we send it to the Jayden interview?
Yeah, I respect that kind of take, Brock. And just one stat that I've been sitting with kind of as my final word, and you can fact check me on this. When I last looked, UC Davis red zone efficiency percentage was 92%.
Yeah, for sure.
I think 22 of 24.
Yeah.
And to me, that is going to be the difference because, we have the ability to quick score from 50 yards out. Jay Fish, third quarter, regular appearance.
That'd be dope.
And then once we're in the red zone, we're very, very efficient. And so I think that this game is going to be, about discipline and situational football and the ability to do the little things. And from Coach Hawkins' mouth, that is a struggle for the team at this point. So either they turn the ship 180 between last week and this week. But either way, I think we just keep doing what we're doing and the results will speak for itself. I trust the Plow, Shelton, Coombs process. We're playing at home as well. And so that's kind of my final word, and I'm excited to see folks out there at UC Davis Health Stadium cheer on the Ags to another all important win and keep this show on the road.
Yeah, keep it undefeated in FCS. 6-0, trying to go 7-0, should be 8-0. So we'll see everyone out there. Again, stick around for our exclusive interview with Jayden Stanley, senior captain safety, who is currently balling out on this defense. So Dwight, I will see you on Saturday. And until next time, go Ags. Join the Cal Aggie Alumni Association to connect with Aggies across the globe. Members of CAAA enjoy trips, networking opportunities, VIP invites to events, and access to dozens of discounts. Sign up at alumni.ucdavis.edu/membership. This episode is proudly sponsored by Next Level Sports, delivering the best youth sports experience. If you have a young, aspiring athlete in first through seventh grade, this is your chance to get on the field with Next Level flag football at UC Davis. All teams are coached by a current UC Davis Aggies football player, giving kids real mentorship from the same student athletes who practice and play on the same field within the Aggies football program. All activity takes place at UC Davis Health Stadium, so you get the full game day experience every week. Whether your participant is brand new to the sport or already obsessed with football, Next Level focuses on skill building, teamwork, and growth. It's an incredible way to build confidence, make friends, and learn from true role models. Registration for the 2026 Next Level Spring Flag Football and Winter Volleyball seasons at UC Davis are now open. Spots are going fast, so sign up today at nextlevelsports.com. Give your athlete the best youth sports experience.
Aggie Pride is proud to partner with JG Graphics in Rancho Cordova, the spot for custom apparel, embroidery, and printing. Aggie alum Pete Povey and his team helped us design and produce our Aggie Pride hats, and the quality is next level. If you need gear for your business, team, or next big event, Pete will take care of you from first idea to final stitch. Support a fellow Aggie and check them out at jg.graphics or visit their shop in Rancho Cordova.
With over 55 years of experience helping families and businesses navigate life's legal twists and turns, the law firm of Bold, Posner, Maddow, Nelson, and Judson is a proud partner of the Aggie Pride podcast. Whether you're starting a family, managing your assets, or facing the loss of a loved one, BPMNJ is there to guide you through some of life's toughest transitions with clarity, compassion, and care. They assist clients with estate planning and also support families dealing with incapacity, elder law, probate and trust administration, conservatorships, and civil litigation. The firm is managed by Craig Judson and his son, Scott Judson, former Aggie Pack MC and past president of the Cal Aggie Alumni Association. With offices in Walnut Creek and Sacramento, BPMNJ serves clients throughout California, bringing trusted legal guidance wherever it's needed. And here's something special for our listeners. Mention this podcast when you book your free consultation at bpmnj.com, and you'll receive $500 off a comprehensive estate plan. Bold, Posner, Maddow, Nelson, and Judson, powered by Aggie Pride.
All right, welcome back to Aggie Pride, a UC Davis football podcast. I'm Brock Galvin. Dwight is working away late into the afternoon. It's another game week, and it's another week with a pretty awesome guest. We're joined by redshirt senior safety, team captain, leadership council, all-around stud who brings the juice each and every Saturday, Jayden Stanley. Jayden, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? Pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. It's been a long time. We've been trying to do this for a couple weeks now, but we finally got it going. So it's a pleasure to be on here, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, people were clamoring. I mean, we tried to hook up a few weeks ago. It didn't work out. And then this week we put out a poll like, who should we have? And the consensus was clear. Why do you think everyone was like Jayden Stanley? Like, why do you think everyone's like, dude, you got to get this guy on the pod?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was kind of impressed by all the comments too, man. It's just it shows how much people gravitate towards me. Yeah, man. It was a blessing, man. True blessing to see that. I just here to kick some games with people, man.
That's awesome. Well, this is going to be fun. We kind of chatted before we clicked play on what we were going to do. So it might be a little bit. I know we got some time. If you need to roll at any point, feel free. But we like to start at the beginning, the football beginning, I should say. Everyone's got a different football story, and we've heard all across the map where people first got introduced to the game, fell in love with the game. So from as early back as you can remember, share with us your football story, how you were introduced and how you fell in love all the way up until UC Davis.
Yeah, I mean, that's not quite that hard for me. I didn't start playing football until I was in the 7th grade, but growing up, I was always an athlete, going to my uncle and auntie's house, just playing football in the front yard with all my cousins. My mom, she didn't want me to play football because she was scared of, me getting hurt and stuff. But I've always been in love with the game. I have a lot of family members who play the game. But yeah, I didn't start playing football until about the 7th grade. I actually played soccer before, and I was getting way too many red cards. So I was like begging to my mom, like, mom, it's time. And it's like I was almost getting the red cards on purpose because I just wanted to play so bad. So it's like, I was begging to her. She finally let me play. And yeah, so I started playing football in 7th grade for the Berryessa Cougars, man, and that's where kind of all started. My mom's coworker at the time, he was the head coach for the team, and he was like, bring him out. We'll see how he does. And sure enough, man, I went out there and I was a good player. I would say I was a great player. I was also a captain on that team. So I feel like that's kind of where all the leadership stuff kind of started, it kind of brewed up on that team. We had a really great culture on that team, as we do here at Davis. And yeah, man, that's kind of where it all started there on the Berryessa Cougars my 7th grade year. So played on that team for my 7th grade year. And then 8th grade year comes around, and it was like spring season around this time. So I played for a team called the NorCal Bears, and that's where I met Kavir Baines. Actually, his his coach was my coach was his father. So me and Kavir connected there, and I was also a captain on that team. But just to kind of throw out there, I've actually been a captain on every team that I've been a part of. So we'll get to that later down the line as we start talking about the captain stuff. But I'm just gonna mention that I was a captain on every team that I've been a part of. So yeah,
Cool.
I played for the NorCal Bears, and that was a great experience. It was spring football, so there's no weight limit. Did a lot of travel and actually traveled to Puerto Rico. Kavir and I traveled to Puerto Rico together and played a game down there, and that was a great experience. And then kind of fast forwarding on to my high school career. So I went to Independence High School my freshman and sophomore year, where I played under Steve Pappin, and he was a great coach. We had a great team there. That was my sophomore year, or actually it was my freshman year. I was on JV. I wasn't old enough to play on varsity, but sure enough, I was a captain on that team as well. And yeah, I had a great freshman year. Freshman JV year, I wasn't able to play on varsity, or else they would have brought me up during the playoffs. But played well on that season. And then come my sophomore year, 2018, I was brought up to varsity. That's what it's called. Sorry, I was brought up to varsity, and yeah, man, this is like this quick memory I remember. It was 7-on-7, in the summer varsity. I was a sophomore, only sophomore on varsity that year, and we were balling out, man. We had a great team, great culture, and I remember we were on at a 7-on-7 game, and head coach Steve Pappin comes up to me, man. He was like, "Hey, Jayden, what do you think about being a captain, being a captain on this team?" And I was like, "I mean, I think it's great, coach. Like I've always been like that vocal type of guy. I've always been the one to kind of bring the team together and just come in with my chin up, chest out, having fun, every day." So I was like, man, I mean, it felt good. I felt like the ball was continuing to roll, like coming from little league, being a captain, to being recognized on the only sophomore on the team, on my varsity team, to be a captain. That kind of meant a lot to me. So that year, we actually went on to be the greatest independent high school football team ever in history. We went 11-1. We lost in the second round of playoffs to Carlmont High School. But yeah, man, that was a great experience. I'll never forget that team. Actually, I have all the teams I played for. I have it tattooed on my arm, so I'll never forget them. Great guys on that team. I still talk to a bunch of those guys to this day. And then that was my sophomore year. So come my junior year, I ended up transferring to Menlo Atherton High School, and that was probably, I would say, the best decision I ever made in my life. I just didn't feel like I was getting the exposure that I needed at Independence High School, so I kind of reached out to some buddies I played little league with, and ended up transferring to Menlo Atherton High School. And the crazy crazy part about it, Coach Steve Pappin, who I played for under at Independence, he actually transferred in after me and was the head coach that year. So yeah, played under Steve Pappin for a year at Menlo Atherton as well, and that was a great experience. Obviously the competition was a lot higher, and I felt like I fit in really well, and it was great, man. So that was my junior year. We made it to the playoffs, lost in the second round, I believe, to Wilcox. And yeah, that was great, man. That was a great experience. And kind of just like a little backstory, real quick. So I played with a guy named Troy Franklin. He's on the Broncos now. I played with him my junior and senior year at Menlo Atherton, but kind of just like I remember one day going up to him. I was like, dang, Troy, like, what is it, bro? Like, he had all these offers and stuff, and I was coming in. I was just trying to learn. I was coming in from Independence. Not getting a lot of exposure. I was like, and mind you, me and Troy, we known each other since like Little League. We played in an All-Star game together, so I've known him for quite a while. So it wasn't just like a random question to this guy who had all these offers
Yeah.
and stuff. Like
Yeah.
we actually have like a relationship. But so like we're talking at lunchtime or whatever. I'm like, damn, bro, what is it, bro? Like, how are you getting these offers, bro? He's like, bro, just stay patient. Your time will come. And I kind of feel like that's the same way here at Davis. Like, I just kind of had to stay patient. I've always been the type of guy. I've been cool and comfortable with not being recognized. I've always I feel like I've always been the underdog. Yeah, man, I was just kind of quick little backstory. He was just like, stay patient, man. Your time will come. And sure enough, the next 2 weeks come around, and I received my first offer from the University of Montana, and it was just a great feeling, man. Like, just talking to my guy, and he told me to stay patient. And next thing you know, that offer came rolling in. So yeah, then that was my junior year. Then senior year comes around, and that's kind of just like COVID time. It's like offers were getting they weren't getting thrown out as easy as they would be previous years or years to come after. But yeah, man. So senior year comes around, and that was a tough time for me, because this was COVID and stuff, and I love football, man. That was like my way to get away from all the negative and just bad energy that's out there in this world. But yeah, so COVID comes around, and I have the offers that I have. I think it's like Montana, San Diego, Davis, Southern Utah, Northern Arizona, and a couple more. I can't remember them all, but so COVID comes around, and my mom gets hit with COVID really bad, man, and it was a tough time. Like she was on her deathbed, and they had the whole oxygen on her, and whatever. It was just a bad deal. She was down really bad, and I was kind of like, my mom, she like, based on all the offers I had, like, obviously I was talking to my mom about the situation and stuff, and she was like, and this was before she had got COVID, and she was like, I think Davis would really be a great school for you. Like, she was really pushing for Davis, really pushing for Davis. And me, I was young, I didn't really know. I was more trying to get away. Like, I was trying to get away from, like, go as far as from home as possible. But so she gets hit with COVID and stuff, and I just hear it in her voice, like talking to her on the phone, because I couldn't, obviously it's COVID, I can't go to the hospital and stuff. And she was like, whatever decision you make, just know I'm gonna be happy. And like, I didn't know if that was the last time I was gonna talk to her, or but sure enough, man, I believe it was two days before Christmas. I call up Coach Hicks. I'm like, what's up, Coach? How you doing, man? I'm like, I'm ready to be Aggie. I committed here to Davis, and man, that really changed my life. That moment right there, man, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my backstory on football, following up to Davis, for sure. Yeah, that's the backstory, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of cool because we have people on here. I mean, we've had like Scott Gordon and Scott Marsh on here too, and like to hear their football story is different, and yet that connection, and Dwight always talks about this, that we have through UC Davis specifically, hence the Aggie Pride and Aggie Pride podcast and UC Davis football, but just football overall, like 30,000 foot view, not just Davis, like the connections we have in football, and then just all those different anecdotes you shared. Like I remember those Troy Franklin years at Menlo Atherton. I remember how good the program was then. And I jotted that down when you said you went there. I was like, oh, I remember some of those years. Menlo was dope. And Pappin is
Yeah,
a good
absolutely.
coach. And then just the other thing that stands out, and I think it is a good place to kind of go to, you mentioned it a bunch, is the captaincy and how many times you've been named captain. And I was interested, and you somewhat answered it, like, you know, why, the why behind it. Why do you think you've been recognized multiple times at all these different ages to be captain? And then, like you said, it's rare to be captain most years, but it's also rare to be captain when you're a sophomore on varsity. That's super unique.
Absolutely.
Um, but in addition to being like a vocal leader, what do you like? What I know it's sometimes a little uncomfortable to talk about ourselves, but what other attributes that you have do you feel like people gravitate towards or see in you that you feel like are strengths that make you worthy of being captain year in, year out?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I would say, obviously, we talked about the vocal stuff, but I think my loyalty as a person, that just like it says a lot about who I am. Every day I come in, it's for the boys. Like everything I do is for the boys. And it's just who I am. If you see me out there on our summer workouts this previous summer, it was just you could just tell like everything I was doing was to bring the team together as we talk about here at Davis. It's that trust, that unity, and that togetherness. So just trying to bring all that stuff together, man, and create this powerhouse team, man, is just it's wonderful. And obviously I couldn't do it without the people behind me and our great staff and great teammates that we have here.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I want to circle back to your mom because you
Hmm.
talked about COVID and her making that phone call. And I told my wife yesterday, I had a nightmare 2 nights ago. I woke up and I told my wife, I'm like, babe, I had a nightmare that it was like a COVID scenario again. Like we were locked
Hmm.
down. It was like Armageddon type situation, but it was like we were doing the distancing thing. It's interesting how our brains, at least mine, and I think from talking to other people have had this experience too, where like we almost have like blocked it out. Like when life finally came back, which for Californians, you and I both know this, especially being in the Bay, it's a lot. Like I have family from Texas, way less strict, right? And so
Yeah.
we had the lockdowns, like we had the restrictions, and that was difficult. But to be taken back, even if it was a dream, I was just like, oh my gosh, dear God, I do not want to remember that. You had like direct contact with it. And we produced a video about a month ago, and I think I sent it to you, and your mom was in it, and she got emotional talking about
Yeah.
you with just what it's meant for you to play at Davis. Why do you think she got so emotional during that moment? And why do you think she feels that way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, my mom, she's just an emotional person all around, man. We'll be having a simple conversation and I mean she'll start crying. But for sure, when it comes to me, she's definitely super emotional. She kind of calls me like her miracle baby, because I wasn't supposed to be born. When she was pregnant with me, she had cancer and she also had a tumor as well at the same time, and they thought I was a twin, but it was actually a tumor. So that's kind of where like all the emotion behind me started. And man, just growing up, just where we come from. I'm actually from San Jose, but the east side of San Jose, and we didn't grow up. But I grew up with a single mom, raising me and my sister, but it wasn't easy, but she made all ends meet whenever we needed something, and that was always something I appreciated. And just I think the reason why she got emotional like that is because just where we come from, it's not easy. I have a lot of friends that are dead in jail, but I could have made a lot of left turns, but I chose to stay in my lane and stay on my path. And I always knew I wanted to play sports. I didn't know what sport it was going to be, but man, I just stayed the course, man, and I made it to where I needed to go. But yeah, that's for sure why she was emotional because just she knows where we come from, and she knows that there's plenty other opportunities and decisions that I could have done that would have taken me down the wrong road. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think she's just very proud of me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, man. One of the comments that we got from the IG when we requested people to add questions, and I'm gonna butcher it. I'm not even gonna say the Instagram handle because I'm just gonna screw it up and sound dumb. But she says, "What's something that you remind yourself to keep you motivated through the hard times?" I feel like based on what we were just talking about, I feel like it's kind of a timely question.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was actually looking at all the questions before obviously hopping on, but I seen that question and it goes right back to what we're talking about, man. Just where I come from. Just where I come from, man, is just I know there's a lot of things I could have done to go down the wrong road, and I chose not to. But that's what answers that question, man. Just simply just where I come from.
Yeah, the roots. It's interesting
Exactly.
how often just like yeah, remembering and the power of memory and also just where we come from can be such a motivator. Um, I think
Absolutely.
another one that's connected to what we've been discussing so far, the captaincy. Faith Loomis says, "What does it mean to wear the captain's patch for you?"
Oh, it means everything, man. Man, I mean, I know you did the interview with Coach Plow, and he kind of like harped on the way I was feeling when that got mentioned. But man, it means everything. I'm very very grateful, man. As I mentioned before, like I've been a captain on every team that I've been a part of. From little league to Independence High School to Menlo Atherton High School, and then now here to Davis, man. So it's kind of funny because I made this goal before the season even started. Like before summer workouts and all that even started. I was like, dang man, like I need to be a captain on this team so that I could say that I've been a captain on every single team I've been a part of. Like I have to, like it's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So boom, summer workouts come around, and I feel like I've always been a vocal leader on this team, specifically like all my years here, but I kind of turned it up a notch this year, and I was like, it's my time to shine. Like I said before, you got to be comfortable with not being recognized, and I felt like it was my time. It was my last year here at Davis, and I had a lot to prove. So yeah, man, it means a lot, man. Just being able to say that I've been a captain on every single team, and to lead these boys to where we are now. Obviously, we've been facing a lot of adversity, but life's not perfect. You just got to keep going. And what's life without adversity? But it just means a lot, man. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for sure.
You got your job interview pitch ready, man. Because like that first job, whenever you're done playing football, they ask you like, "Oh, tell us something about yourself." Like that story of, "Hey, I've been a captain since I was 10 years old to now." And sometimes people might worry like, "Oh, he's always been the leader, then can he be the follower?" But the story of you having to earn it in college and for 5 years, even into your senior year, not being named captain, but then getting it through that hard work, through working in the shadows like you're talking about, that's a powerful story that any person wants to be attached to that, any company, any group of friends, like you said, like you're talking about that loyalty. I want to break and talk about the season a little bit. We'll come back to a couple more
For
questions
sure,
from
for sure.
IG at the end. And then like we talked about, I think it'd be fun to chat a little bit about the Bengals of Idaho State. So um been an interesting season, as you know. You've lived it. You guys started with the Mercer experience, and then you've won all of your FCS games. Tough one in Seattle, but pretty. I would say thorough 6-0 against FCS. Could be 7-0. If you look at even the defensive side of the ball, I feel like you guys have been getting better throughout the year in a variety of areas. At the beginning of the season, we talked about how much depth was in the secondary. Just felt like you guys had
Yeah,
so much talent back there, and that depth has been tested, right? So many injuries and things
absolutely,
that you guys have had
absolutely.
to overcome. The leading tackler for the team is still Rex Connors, which just shows how friggin' dope that guy is. But then it's you and
Yeah, man, that's
Kalani,
a
two
fact.
and three. Like you and Kalani are right there.
So yeah, one of you guys will probably lead the team in tackles by the end of the year. Add that to your bucket list of goals. Talk about what the year's been like for you, though. All the adversity, things you've gone through. I don't know, any highs or lows or certain moments that come to mind that you feel like kind of encapsulate what the year's been like.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely been a year for the book so far, man. But just kind of starting off with that first game, that was some true adversity, just traveling all the way to Alabama. That was tough. The humidity, we've never played in anything like that as a team. So that was crazy. The lightning and stuff, having the game canceled, that was really crazy. But that just shows that the resiliency we have as a team, leading up to now, going through as much adversity as we have gone through, it just shows how connected we are, going back to that trust, unity, togetherness again. It just shows how connected we are. And just kind of like going back to last year real quick. Last year as a team, we were deep, we were real deep. That team has been together for a really long time. And we kind of went through some adversity together. So coming into this year now, it's like we never really have went into adversity together with this specific team because it's a lot of new people. We got a lot of transfers, a lot of freshmen coming in. So I feel like, just the start to this season, we have like four road games back to back or whatever it was. That alone is adversity faced right there. Having the canceled game, adversity faced right there. Going down to Washington, it was a great experience, but that's adversity right there. And, just leading all the way up to now, man, it's just a whole bunch of adversity that we've been faced. Our motto for the year has been hurt. And we've been going through the hurt, man, but it just shows it just shows how resilient this team is, man. And I'm just very proud of these guys, man. We come in and we work really hard every day. We don't focus on anything on the outside noise. There's a lot of teams out there that are focused on the outside, and you know, I just feel like we're one of those teams that just focus on us, and like I said before, you got to be cool and comfy with not being recognized. But man, ever since Plow got here, man, I feel like we've been on the map. So
For sure.
yeah, man, that's
It's both, right? I mean, this is something that Nick Saban always talks about every Saturday on game day, but he always talked about it as a coach too. It's one thing to be the underdog. And in some ways, it's a little easier from like a motivation standpoint to be like chip on your shoulder, like F that, like they don't believe in us. We're the underdog. No one's picking us to win. That comes with, I mean, that's tough in a way, but being the favorite, and you guys are,
oh,
been perennial top 10 the last few years. So it's like everyone comes in with their A game, and that can be
mhm.
hard to stay up mentally. That's why, the rat poison is what Saban always talks about. You talk to some media person, or you talk to people in the program, or you're getting the text messages like, hey, you guys are so good. It's hard to stay grounded and level headed. A good question, I feel like, from, I don't know if you crossed paths with him, Aaron Duncan. He was a safety
Oh,
handful of
absolutely,
years
that's
ago.
my guy.
Okay, so he
Yes,
asked,
sir, that's my guy. Yeah.
all right, so you can chat about him if you want during the answer. He says, what do you do to build consistency throughout the week of preparation so that you are a reliable asset to the team on Saturdays?
Yeah, first of all, Dunk, man, that's my guy, man. Kind of coming in that he was one of those guys, him, George Moreno, there's a whole bunch of other guys, Devin King, that just brought me in and, under their wing and just kind of coached me up and just showed me the way, the Davis guy way, man. But Dunk, that's my guy. That's a great question you have there, Dunk. But I would say honestly, my preparation, man, my preparation. I feel like on our specific defense, I'm like, as I said before, like I'm a vocal leader, but if you go out there, I'm sure you've been at practice. Like I'm a vocal person. I'm communicating everything, man. Just the tendencies the other team has. For a quick example, I don't want to. It was from a previous game, but um, what did they do? It was some crazy thing they did. Well, not even crazy, but kind of just like quick example. So the quarterback just did like a quick little emo, or not emo, but like like he did something which told me what play it was going to be, and sure enough, it was that play. So that just goes on to show like how much I prepare for the game, and I watch film. And I would say, yeah, my film study, man, just making sure I'm two steps ahead of the offense, man, because it's real hard for the offense when you're out there and you're calling out their plays, you're making a bunch of this noise. We're checking to what we're checking to. It just makes it real hard on that quarterback. And that was a cool thing that I saw last week in UNC's game as well. Just I was really proud of the guys, our defense as a whole, for what we did in that game and how we played. But yeah, going back to Dunk's question, I would say, just my preparation in the week, being able to communicate on the field for our defense to be successful, man. That's my greatest asset for sure.
Yeah. The film study, and I remember that as a player too. Like, it helps you play faster, right? If you've watched a ton of film, your speed during a game can even be faster than the 40 time or whatever the actual, talent and whatnot. And I feel like that's why well coached teams, which Davis has
Hmm.
always been that. And I think, back in my time, which is hilarious to say, I was telling my wife last night, I'm like, I'm getting too old for the podcast. Even I feel like she's like, no, you're fine. But when I say phrases like back in my time, I'm like, dear Lord, we were a well coached team that I and no disrespect to all our guys, we had some dudes, but the level of talent now, and Plow said it. He's like, this is the most talented team that I've ever had. And I think given all the injuries that you guys have had, to be 6-1, to be sixth ranked team in the country is just another piece of evidence of why we're that way. Let's chat a little bit about kind of where you're at in the season. So, technically, this is week 9 coming up. You guys have Idaho State, then Idaho, and then big one in Bozeman, and then back home against Suck State. It's interesting because uh, we had one more question I wanted to read. I know who it's from. You can actually share if you want, but this wonderful woman says, as a senior on the leadership committee and team captain, what advice would you give to upcoming players to keep the team's morale and continued success going throughout future seasons, even?
Yeah, that was definitely my mom who wrote that. I read that comment as well. But yeah, just kind of answering that question, man. I'll just say for the upcoming crew, man, just well, as far as the freshmen coming in next year or whatever it is, the young guys now, just kind of adapting to this great culture that we have here at Davis. This team has a great culture, and I would like that to stay the same. But yeah, it's kind of to the current players, man. Just be the best version of yourself every day, man. And your goals that you have, your aspirations that you have, man. They're all gonna fall into place. Just be a great guy, great Davis guy, like we say, man, and just keep that Aggie pride rolling, man, for sure.
Yeah, love it. Well, Aggie pride is a phrase that when I was playing, it didn't hit me as much, to be honest. I've like had to
Hmm.
learn and learn and learn and get to meet so many other players who played in all these years. I hope that you guys are getting to soak it in more than I did when I was playing. But one of the
Absolutely.
guys who, for me on the outside in, Coach Hawkins was not at Davis. Coach Biggs was our head coach when I was there. But I
Yes,
respected
sir.
Coach Hawk. I knew he had a successful career at Boise and then had the Colorado opportunity. When he came back, as alums, we were all really excited because we really struggled
Hmm.
in the years prior to his hire, really struggled, like worst years in school history. And then he came back and he injected a ton of energy. The Jake Mayer, Keelan Doss years, first time ever winning the Big Sky Championship, only time ever winning the Big Sky Championship, best, performance in the FCS playoffs. So he ends up leaving to go with Cody at Idaho State. This is a weird matchup. It felt like Idaho State was getting better, but the record is not showing that despite maybe what you guys are watching on film. I guess we'll start with the Hawkins. What's
Yeah,
it
for
like
sure.
for you? Like, these guys. They were your coach. I know you're focused on who
Yeah.
you're going up against, but like what's that feel like for you going against the old head coach?
Honestly, for me, it's not really. I don't really find any emotion in the game. Hawk, Cody, good guys, man, good guys for sure. But yeah, it's just kind of another game for me. It's. I'm not really focused on the emotion in the game. Obviously, there's a narrative behind the game, but we just kind of, like I said earlier, this team does a really good job of just focusing on us, man, and just we don't really like to get into all the media and stuff that's going on the outside. But yeah, obviously there's a narrative behind this game, but we're focused on us, and we can't really we can't really give power to things that we don't have control of, you know. But yeah, I would just say, just I'm just focused on our game and playing our best football. So I'm not really focused on the Coach Hawk and Cody Hawk over there. But
Yep.
great guys for sure, and I'll be excited to play against them
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's an interesting game for one, and well done on the response.
for sure.
That's captain like response right there. This team chucks it. They chuck it around, as you know, and they've had two different guys
Absolutely,
play. I
absolutely.
think Jordan Cook is probably the guy they want to start. But when
Hmm.
you look at them, they got a bunch of receivers who catch the ball, and and yet
Absolutely.
and yet they've struggled to win games. But from your standpoint, like when you've put on the tape the last couple days, like what stands out to you about this team? What challenges do you think they present?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, they chuck the ball a lot. They're a great team. They got a lot of great skill players. They get the ball out on the perimeter a lot, which we won't have a problem with. But yeah, man, I'm just ready. I'm confident in our guys, and we're focused on us, like I said. But we put in a lot of time during the week to play our best football, and I'm excited to go up against a great team and accept this new challenge and just focus on winning the next game every day.
Yeah. A couple fun ones to close it out. Samash, your guy, who was dope. I liked watching
Yes,
him.
sir.
He
Hey, that's
says,
my guy. That's my
yeah, I love it. He says, "What's your favorite place to eat in Davis?"
Oh, that's a good one, man. That's a good question. I actually read that comment, man. I was trying to prep for that question, but it's too hard, man. I love food. Food is really good, man. But um, I don't, I don't know if I have a favorite place. I'll kind of name off a couple of my go-to places, but for sure, man, the melt they just opened up here by Trader Joe's. That's a really good place to eat. I love the melt. I love burgers and stuff. If I'm getting a quick snack or whatever, I always acai fresh. Shout out to them. That's a great one right there for sure too. Acai fresh. Good friends pokey, really good. Froggies is really great. I love their food. Their food is really good. But yeah, those are just kind of a couple of places, and you always got to go to your Chipotle's, your In and Outs, and
Yep.
your Canes. But yeah, for sure, those are just a couple of the go-to places.
Davis has good food, like you're saying. Peek behind the curtain at the training table for guys like me who never had it. Like, and what's the training table food experience like? Because this is something that Coach Plow has talked about. Like, hey, I want to feed the guys well. So, what are they cooking up on a day to day for y'all?
Oh, for sure. We get these catered meals. It'll range. Every day it's something different, but it's usually like chicken and rice. Salmon and mashed potatoes. It's a wide variety. We get some beef in there. There's always two options to the day. So like one day it'll be like beef and rice or chicken and rice. It's some really good food. But yeah, on top of that, we've had some great donors. Just come in and drop some money on us, man, for that nutrition. That's been a very big place where we need to work on, and I feel like we've really improved on our nutrition, and I think this is the first year that we haven't lost weight as a team. We've actually gained weight as a team, so that just goes to show like how much we've been improving in that area.
Yep. While we're on that train of thought, I guess these aren't quite as like funny questions, but just what's popping in my head is you had the experience of the Hickey Toomey Field weight room, and then you have the experience now. Like, what is it like for you on a daily basis to walk into the EFACT and have that be your new home?
Oh man, first off, man, I'm very grateful, man. Shout out my guy Bruce, man, but very grateful, man. Just walking in there, it's just it just feels real. It's just like kind of that dream that you've always had as a kid. Just walking into the facility, everything being right there where it's supposed to. It's real convenient, man. Just waking up, going over to the facility, you walk in, training room's right there. You go in, get your little treatment or whatever, get taped up and ready for practice. Walk out of the training room and meeting room is right there, walk into the meeting room. And it's super convenient, go into the meeting room, go out, get ready for practice, and the field is right there. So yeah, I'm just very grateful for that place. Yeah, Bob Biggs Field, man. That's a special place. I'll never forget that field, man. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears on that field, but also going back to Toomey, man, that place was special too. That's kind of where it all started here with this Aggie pride, Aggie pride tradition that we got. So before the games, we always wake up to Tomb, bring the Tomb with us. So I'll never forget about the Tomb either. That's kind of where it all started.
Yep. A couple more about the team, and then I'll let you run. Young pup, feisty young pup, who I like to call Drew Cofield, who's been super impressive.
Oh yes,
I
sir.
can't think of many examples of a true freshman in like the 15 years that I've been either in the program or as an alum watching the program pretty closely, that there's been someone that impactful. Talk about him for a second, and then also share some love to, like, I don't know, maybe another unsung hero type guy on the defensive side of the ball who we should know about.
Oh, absolutely. I'll talk about them all, but kind of just starting with Drew Cofield, man. That's a special kid. He's gonna go really far in this football stuff and just life in general. But yeah, that's a special guy right there, man. He came in, and I want to say December. He was an early enrollee, and right off the bat, you could just tell how much love he had for the game. He's obviously a really great player. I stayed in the film room extra long. Watched a lot of film with us, and kind of brought him under our wing and just he already knew the way, but this college way is a little different, so just kind of bringing him along and going through those workouts with him, you could just tell he was going to be someone that this team would really use. And sure enough, we get to the first game, and he's making big plays. We get to Utah Tech, he's picking the ball off and going for 30. But yeah, man, that's a great player right there. And then I also want to shout out another young cat, Cam Totten, really explosive player. I'm in the room with him every day. We watch a lot of film together. Sucks that he went out with an ACL a couple weeks ago against Cal Poly, but yeah, man, that's another guy that you want to keep on your radar, man. He's gonna be a real good player. He's out of Folsom, but yeah, you can just tell the love that he has for the game. And oh man, I could go on and on about our defense, man, but the whole back end is just elite. The D line, we've been playing elites at the D line level. Last game, we had 15 critical downs. UNC only got 3 of those critical downs. I want to give a big shout out to the D line, man. They went crazy, man. Sam Golagowski, that guy went crazy. 2 sacks, 7 total tackles. Syke had a sack. Trent Carrad was a sack fumble. I mean, I could go on and on. The list goes on, but I think what was it, like UNC? They've only given up 4 sacks in the whole season, and we got 4 sacks in the game. So that just goes to show like how elite our D line is, man. Without them as a back end, we wouldn't be anything. So it just kind of ties in, man, to the whole defense that we have, the resiliency that's behind this team and this defense, man. Obviously, like we talked about Rex Connors and Porter Connors, elite players. Those players are irreplaceable, man. But it's the guys that we have here, man, the Davis guys, that are ready to step up. We got Jackson Severs. He comes in first game, 11 tackles against Cal Poly. So, it just goes to show, man, we got unlimited depth here on this defense, man. It never stops. But yeah, I could go on and on about our defense, but those are just kind of some of the guys I want to shout out. And then kind of like on special teams too, like I feel like everyone always brushes off special teams, but special teams plays a big role too. Um, we got one of the best, PAT field goal kickers in the nation, man. Hunter Ridley, man, that he bangs it, and it's good to know, like last game, for example, like we really needed that field goal, and it's just we're confident in that guy. He goes in there with his turtle mindset and he just bangs that thing, like it's no questions asked. Like we know if we need it, we got a guy that could do it. So yeah, man, just special teams always goes unnoticed, but I want to shout those guys out. Kind of going back to our defense, kind of how, Rex went down and other players had to step up. Cole Batson is another guy, man, coming in from Boston College, another guy that we could really trust and get out there on the field. And it was like no beats missed, Bray Rosa, he's a, he's another freshman that came in, and Rex went down and Bray's a freshman. A lot of freshmen don't know the playbook, and it's hard coming in from high school to a college defensive level. And Bray, he picked up the defense really quick, and he's who's backing me up right now. So shout out to that guy, man. He gives
Your
me my break
rival.
when I
He
need
went
it.
to Wilcox, right? He's a Wilcox
Yeah.
fan,
He
right?
went to Wilcox. You know, we lost
Yeah.
them, and we're not gonna talk about that, man. But yeah,
I
man.
remember
But
because his
yeah,
dad's
just
the
kind
head
of shout
coach
out to
there.
all those guys, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so cool,
Paul
man.
Rosen, man. His dad's the head coach, but
Yeah.
yeah, shout out to those guys. And then kind of like I kind of want to talk about the offense too, man, because those
Yeah.
guys are elite. You know, we got Caden, man, elite freshman quarterback, man. But I could go on and on about him. But you know, our O line is there's some studs, man. Our you know the running backs that are having all this success, they wouldn't be able to do it without the O line. But yeah, you know, we got Fish over there. Vargas going crazy, man. We got elite receivers, Sam Batu, Stacy, Lavelle Pickett, Zach Jones. We could go on and on, man. But I kind of want to talk about Grant a little bit. That's what you call for the boys, man. You know, last game it's not easy to hear on Friday morning that you're gonna be starting the football game the next day. Grant, man, that's my guy. You know, I've been here with him all 5 years, and he's you know that's kind of the definition of stay down until you come up. You know, you stay patient. And like kind of circling back to what I was talking about earlier, you know, you got to be cool and comfortable with not being recognized. And then, you know, when your time comes, you know, just ball out. And that's what he did, man. That's what you call for the boys. So just kind of want to shout out Grant Harper and the rest of the offense, Caden Pinnock and them for, you know, leading. You know, us as a defense wouldn't be able to do it without them and the special teams. So for sure.
Yeah. True captain mindset, man. Just there's a lot of dudes on a team, and I can tell you want to get them all in because they're all meaningful. And yeah, the story of Grant being able to come in, I didn't know it was just Friday that he was getting the notice. That's crazy to be able to do that,
Yeah.
especially that first half was insane. He was perfect, and we don't win that game without
Oh,
that first
absolutely.
half. Well, to close it out,
Absolutely.
and I know we could spend more time together, and maybe we will postseason or something, but we like to give people the final word just with the mindset of the listeners. So a lot of different people from a lot of different years, a lot of football alumni listen to this from across the country and across the world. So yeah, I guess a final message to them, any which way you want to take that.
Yeah, for sure. You know, just it feels real special to be a part of this Aggie Pride tradition, man, and this Davis tradition. And you know, I just kind of want to shout out all the guys, man. You know, the guys who are gone, the guys that are still here, and the guys that come in the future, man. I really appreciate everyone, you know, and I couldn't do it without you guys. And man, I'm just happy to be a part of a culture that's so deep, and you know, it goes far, man. It's just like it's crazy because there's so many stories I could go on and on about Aggie Pride. You know, like you go everywhere in this world, man. There's gonna be someone from Davis. It might not be a football player, but there's gonna be someone from Davis around there. And I've always had this thing, you know, it's like you do good to Davis, Davis will do good to you for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, I just kind of want to shout out everybody. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys listen in and tune in for the rest of the season. We got something special cooking up, and you know, this is for the boys.
For sure, man. Well, there's a lot of people who are back involved with the program who maybe weren't. And I think Coach Plow's a big reason for that. But there's no doubt, we're
Absolutely.
not dumb. Winning and being really good and being really likable and good guys, like you said, Davis guys. I mean, it's been an honor for us to get to do this the past year and a half because of just each of y'all and the awesome guys that you are and how entertaining the team is. And so just as a little piece of the Aggie community, thanks, man, for being a good example. And I try to say this to guys a lot of times off air too, like, hey, we're rooting for you, we're behind you, and whatever you need. Like, you're going through a shitty time in life, reach out. You're on the mountaintops, you know, we're there to celebrate. And so I think that's kind of the beauty of Aggie Pride. But thanks for joining, man. Good luck against the Hawkins boys on Saturday. We will be there rooting. And I'll say hi to Mama JDZ, and everyone will be rooting for number 10 out there.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me, man. It's really a pleasure.